Let's say you're out in nature standing in front of a river like this. What do you see? Maybe you'd say you see the flowing water, some ordinary rocks, a few fish, and trees all around. And you wouldn't be wrong, but there's something you're not seeing. Something that a true gem hunter would never overlook. Want to know what it is? Well, a river like this holds much more than just water, rocks, and fish. These areas, known as alluvial deposits, can actually be hiding precious gemstones beneath the surface. Want proof? Would you believe that this ugly-looking rock looks like this on the inside? Many stones just like it are scattered throughout rivers all over the world, including the ones near your own hometown. Hidden among common pebbles, these gems, some worth serious money, stay camouflaged in plain sight. In other words, what looks like a calm, peaceful nature scene to most people could actually be a treasure trove of valuable stones like diamonds, rubies, jade, and sapphires. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how it's possible to find real gemstones in any ordinary river, even the ones flowing near your city. Now tell me this, have you ever looked at a colorful little stone in a stream and wondered if it might be worth something? If the answer is yes, then this video is for you. And even if it's never crossed your mind, the truth is that many people have thrown away valuable stones simply because they didn't know what they had. As unlikely as it sounds, this has already happened to several of our own subscribers. So to make sure that never happens to you, by the end of this video, you'll know how to tell whether the stone you found is worth just a few cents or thousands of dollars per carat. In other words, even if you've never experienced this before, today you'll finally understand why so many prospectors, gem hunters, and enthusiasts spend hours at the river searching for natural treasures hidden in plain sight. So if you're curious and want to uncover the secrets nature has to offer, come with me. Because in the next few minutes, you'll start to see the world around you through different eyes. And every walk along a riverbank will become a new opportunity to find something truly valuable. But why is it that so many gem hunters choose rivers as their starting point? Well, the first thing you need to understand is what makes rivers one of the most efficient places to find gemstones. And the answer lies in a natural geological process that's been happening for thousands or even millions of years. A process that literally sorts the gemstones for you. That's right, rivers act like natural conveyor belts, transporting and sorting minerals over time. As water flows down from higher elevations, it carries with it everything in its path. Rock fragments, loose crystals, pebbles, sand, and among all that material, there could be an emerald, a topaz, a garnet, or even a raw diamond. But here's the key. The river doesn't carry all materials the same way. Lighter materials get swept away easily, often all the way to the ocean. But heavier elements like gemstones and precious metals sink and begin to concentrate in the lower points of the riverbed, exactly like you're seeing on your screen now. In other words, dense gems like diamonds, garnets, and zircons tend to settle, while lighter and more common rocks keep drifting with the current. Here's a simple way to picture this. Imagine dropping a cork and a lead pebble of the same size into a river. The cork floats and drifts away with the current, but the lead sinks straight to the bottom. Gemstones behave just like the lead. They're nature's version of heavy treasure. So when the water slows down in a curve or shallow area, those stones start to gather. This natural sorting system is called an alluvial deposit. These deposits work like nature's gold pans, collecting the densest materials at the bottom while the lighter ones stay on top, especially in strategic spots like river bends where gravel piles up and the current slows down. These are true natural vaults where valuable stones gather and wait to be discovered. And it's exactly in places like this that experienced prospectors spend hours sifting through gravel, examining each fragment, and pulling out gemstones of all types and sizes. But here's something that surprises a lot of people. You've probably seen stones that look like this, rounded, almost polished. In fact, many prospectors who post their finds on video platforms are accused of staging these stones, as if they had been polished beforehand and placed in the river just for show. But the truth is, that's not what's happening. Over time, the constant friction between stones acts like a natural tumbler, slowly polishing and shaping these gems as they roll along the riverbed. Just imagine dragging a piece of chalk across asphalt for miles. Eventually, it wears down and smooths out. That's exactly why many gemstones are found with soft edges and a semi-polished look, even though no human has ever touched them. But don't think this only applies to rivers with flowing water. In many cases, gemstones get trapped in ancient riverbeds that dried up a long time ago, and today they're nothing more than piles of rocks. And that can actually be a huge advantage, because the deeper you search in an active river, the higher your chances. But you'll usually need to dive or use tools to get there. In a dry riverbed, however, you can simply walk along the exposed ground and search with your eyes and your hands. That exposed soil is full of clues, and if you know what you're looking for, it becomes a gold mine. In fact, some of the biggest gemstone discoveries in history happened in dry riverbeds, where time, wind, and erosion did the hard work of breaking, separating, and exposing precious stones right at the surface, just waiting to be picked up. And if you think only experts with geology degrees can do this, the truth is very different. Most of the gemstones sold today for millions of dollars were actually found by regular people, some with no formal education at all. There are real cases of everyday folks who hit the jackpot during a simple walk in nature, just by paying attention to the ground around them. So the big question is, what could you actually find on your own search? Well, depending on your region, you might come across quartz, topaz, garnets, jade, agates, zircons, and in some rare cases, even rubies, sapphires, or diamonds, which are among the rarest and most valuable. And before you doubt what I'm saying, here's a fact. Many of these minerals have already been cataloged in ordinary rivers across the world, including in the United States. So yes, if you head to an alluvial deposit in your area right now, there's a good chance you'll find at least one quartz crystal. And in just a moment, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Before we move on, I want you to really see what I see. And if this perspective excites you, make sure to subscribe to the Cabo de Now channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Like I said earlier, most people overlook valuable stones simply because they don't know what they're looking at, especially when you don't yet understand things like surface texture, luster, weight, or how a stone reflects light when it's wet. And yeah, that might sound complicated, but don't worry, you don't need to memorize all of that. Instead, I'm going to show you examples, so you'll know exactly what to look for when you come across a gemstone in the wild. See that shiny little round stone? That's a diamond, a high-quality one. And maybe you're thinking, isn't that kind of small? Well, when it comes to gems, size isn't everything. A stone just a few millimeters wide can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars if it has the right quality. And here's something else to think about. Have you ever wondered why some river stones become smooth and polished over time, while others stay sharp and angular even after years of erosion? The answer lies in a very simple but powerful tool called the Mohs scale. This scale measures the hardness of minerals, in other words, how resistant they are to scratches and wear. It goes from 1 to 10. Talc is at the bottom with a hardness of 1, and diamond is right at the top with a hardness of 10, the hardest known natural material. That means softer stones get smoothed and rounded quickly, while harder gems keep their shape and edges for a long time. To this day, the Mohs scale remains one of the most effective tools for distinguishing high-value gemstones like diamonds from more common ones like topaz. Both are valuable, but topaz is much more affordable. The truth is, the most valuable stones tend to be the hardest. Diamonds, sapphires, rubies, and topaz all score high on the Mohs scale, and even after years of tumbling through riverbeds, they still keep their natural brilliance and defined edges. Take diamonds, for example. They usually appear translucent and frosty with angular forms. At first glance, they may seem dull, but look closer and you'll see a subtle inner sparkle when the light hits just right. Roll garnets, on the other hand, often appear as near-perfect little spheres in deep burgundy or wine-red tones. Water erosion softens their natural crystal faces, but they still shine especially when wet, and they're heavier than most river rocks of the same size. Olivine behaves similarly even when water-worn. It keeps its bright green color and glassy appearance. The edges get rounded over time, but its distinct hue makes it easier to spot once you know what to look for. Now let's talk about softer stones like quartz. These tend to show more visible wear-rounded corners, surface scratches, and a duller overall shine. But don't dismiss them. Quartz can appear in a variety of colors: pink, blue, smoky, green, or even clear. And no matter the type, river-worn quartz often ends up with that semi-polished look, shaped naturally by the current. Agates are another fascinating example. They're made up of layered quartz bands of different hardness levels, so they wear unevenly. That's why they often have wavy surfaces and a ceramic-like shine, with intricate patterns still visible even in raw form. They're truly one of nature's most beautiful surprises. Rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, despite being extremely hard, can also show impact marks from clashing with other stones, especially in rivers with strong currents. In those cases, they may be smaller, but they still retain their glassy texture and remain incredibly valuable, even with tiny chips or cracks. Which brings us to a question many people ask: how much can a gemstone found in a river actually be worth? Well, now we're heading into one of the most important parts of this video: a breakdown of the market value of the most interesting gemstones you can find in ordinary rivers, including rivers near your own home. Of course, prices vary depending on quality, size, and demand, but these numbers will give you a solid idea of what your next discovery could really be worth. And the first on our list is topaz. Yes, it's one of the most common natural gemstones, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable. Quite the opposite. Topaz is one of the most versatile and sought-after gems in the world, especially when it comes in light blue, golden yellow, or pure colorless varieties with high clarity. In river environments, topaz usually shows up looking translucent, with worn edges and a soft inner glow, like the one you see on your screen. It almost looks like a heavier, more discreet version of quartz. And that makes sense because it's denser and much harder, ranking 8 on the Mohs hardness scale. If you want to test whether your stone might be topaz, try scratching a piece of glass with it. If it leaves a mark, that's already a great sign. Even when water-worn and dull on the outside, raw topaz still has market value. The more common, untreated specimens typically sell for around $1 to $3 per carat. But if you find a piece with bluish, golden, or honey yellow hues, the price can jump to $10, $20, or even $50 per carat, depending on transparency and color saturation. Now, if you're lucky enough to find a clean, well-formed crystal with cutting potential like an imperial topaz, that's where the numbers start getting serious. Take this certified imperial topaz, for example, weighing just 1.18 carats. It's sold on Amazon for around $329, which is nearly $280 per carat for a single untreated stone with vivid color and no enhancements. And that's just the beginning. The next gem on our list might look ordinary at first glance, but under the right conditions, it could be worth a fortune. We're talking about this deep red stone called garnet. It comes in many colors, but red is the most common, especially in river environments. And the funny thing is, garnets often go unnoticed simply because of their humble appearance. In rivers, they typically show up as small, rounded stones, almost like tiny marbles with hues ranging from deep wine to dark crimson. Some may even look brownish or display a subtle metallic sheen under the light. Here's something interesting. Even after tumbling through strong currents, some garnets still preserve their natural crystal faces, just slightly softened by erosion. That's actually a great sign of durability and quality. And it's an important detail because pyrope garnets, for instance, are one of the primary indicator minerals for the presence of diamonds. So if you find garnets, there might be something even more valuable nearby. But let's talk numbers. How much could a garnet be worth? In general, low-quality rough garnets usually sell for about $1 to $5 per carat. But if you find a specimen with strong color and good clarity, that number can easily rise to $50, $100, or even over $200 per carat, depending on market demand and cut potential. To give you some perspective, high-purity garnets used in fine jewelry can be sold when cut for more than $500 per carat, especially when they display that vibrant red color often mistaken for ruby. In fact, garnets can look so much like rubies that in some parts of Asia, they're nicknamed poor man's rubies. But don't let that fool you. Some rare garnets can actually be worth more than low-grade rubies. So the next time you see a small red stone with a shiny surface rolling at the bottom of a stream, don't ignore it. That little garnet might just change the direction of your entire gem hunting journey. And speaking of stones that can change everything, the next one on our list is one of the oldest and most fascinating gems in the world. And surprisingly, it can also be found in rivers. Natural sapphires found in riverbeds are usually darker in tone, sometimes a deep navy blue, other times more of a steely grayish blue. They often appear dull, with little to no transparency and slightly chipped edges. But don't let the rough look fool you. Even basic-looking sapphires can be worth a lot, especially if they show strong color and decent translucency. In their raw form, sapphires have a slightly glassy texture, and their inner glow only really shows when they're wet or under direct sunlight. Here's a fun fact. Many of the darker sapphires found in the United States are referred to as black sapphires. While they're not as valuable as clear light blue ones, they can still be worth anywhere from $50 to $200 per carat, depending on size and color saturation. Now here's something that surprises a lot of people. When a sapphire turns red, it's no longer called a sapphire. It's a ruby. Yes, that's right. Rubies and sapphires are actually the same mineral, corundum. The only difference is color. When corundum turns red, it's officially called a ruby. Every other color like blue-pink, yellow-green, or even colorless falls under the sapphire category. And raw rubies? Those are even rarer and far more valuable. They often appear as irregular fragments with slightly rounded edges from tumbling through the river. Their color can range from cherry red to blood red, and even tiny pieces can command serious prices. A well-formed natural ruby can sell for anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 per carat, depending on clarity and color intensity. Even rougher, less translucent rubies can still go for $100 to $500 per carat. So how can you tell if you're holding one? If you find a dense crystal with subtle inner glow, intense color, and a very hard surface, try a scratch test. Corundum ranks second on the Mohs hardness scale, just below diamond. If it can't be scratched by anything except a diamond, there's a good chance you're holding one of these incredible gems. Here's one more tip. If you're torn between a ruby and a red garnet, pay close attention to the color. Rubies tend to have a purer, more vivid red, while garnets usually lean more toward wine red or brownish red. And of course, that difference shows in the value too. But now we've reached the star of the list, the most desired gemstone in the world, the diamond. Yes, diamonds can also be found in rivers. And as unbelievable as it sounds, it's not impossible for you to find one, especially if you're exploring areas with favorable geological history. But before you go running to the nearest stream, it's important to understand how diamonds show up in nature. And the truth is, they never come alone. They're often found in areas with key indicator minerals like pyropogarnet, chromite, and ilmenite. So if you find traces of these minerals in the gravel, don't ignore them. A rough diamond found in a riverbed usually looks dull, with an irregular shape and sharp edges. At first glance, it may seem like just another cloudy rock. It doesn't sparkle like the diamonds you see in jewelry stores, but if you look closely, especially when it's wet, you'll notice a subtle, almost metallic gleam that reflects light in a unique way. There's a reason for that. Diamonds sit at the very top of the Mohs scale, with a hardness of 10. That means they're not just resistant to water erosion or contact with other stones, they're practically immune. While other gems become polished, rounded, or worn down over time, Diamonds keep their sharp edges and stay nearly unchanged. And that's exactly why they're so often mistaken for nothing special. Here's a simple tip. If you find a dense, heavy stone that isn't scratched by quartz and shows that subtle sparkle, try testing its density. Diamonds have a specific gravity between 3.5 and 3.6, and if you got a pressure tool, you can test its strength. A real diamond won't break easily. And the value? That's where things get even more interesting. A gem-quality diamond can be worth anywhere from $5,000 to $100,000 per carat, depending on its size, color, and clarity. And if you happen to find a fancy colored diamond, like vivid blue, pink, or intense yellow, the value can skyrocket well into the millions. Of course, not every diamond found in nature will be that valuable. Most river diamonds are small, dark, heavily included, and visually dull. These are known as industrial-grade diamonds, and they typically sell for around $20 to $50 per carat. But here's a secret most people overlook. If you found an industrial diamond, keep searching. Because where there's one low-quality diamond, there's a real chance others are nearby, and one of them could be worth a fortune. But before you even think about pricing your find, there's one crucial step. You need to know what your stone really is. Out of all the gemstones that exist, how can you be sure which one you're holding? The truth is, many gemstones look strikingly similar, and that can easily fool you. A classic example is zircon. In some cases, it can look nearly identical to a diamond, especially when it's clean and well-formed. But in terms of market value, it's like comparing sand to gold. And that's where the danger lies. If you don't know how to properly identify your gemstones, a shady buyer could easily take advantage of you. I've received messages from many subscribers who sold what they thought was just a random pebble for a few cents, only to find out later that it was actually worth hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. And the worst part? There's no way to undo that mistake. So before you rush off to the nearest riverbed you can find, remember this: learning how to identify your finds using simple, practical methods can be the difference between making a great deal or missing out on a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And that's exactly why I created the ebook Gemology Journey for Beginners. It's a straightforward guide for beginners who want to learn from the ground up. Inside, you'll find a complete step-by-step system to identify diamonds, tourmalines, rubies, garnets, zircons, and dozens of other gemstones, even if you've never studied geology before. And here's something special that many of you asked for in the comments. To celebrate the channel reaching 100,000 subscribers, the physical version of the ebook will be released on Amazon on July 25th, featuring expanded content, brand new tests explained in detail, and exclusive illustrations. But until then, you can get lifetime access to the full digital version, including all future updates, for less than $10. The regular price is $27, but right now it's just $9.99, exclusively for subscribers of this channel. Just click the first link in the description or check the pinned comment. And if you want to support the channel even more, you can now become an official channel member. As a member, you'll get early access to new videos, exclusive content, and your name featured right here in these shoutouts. So if you'd like to join the Gem Hunter community, just hit the join button. Today, I want to give a warm welcome to our newest gem hunters, Dina Marie, DeWild, Earl Bluebell, Shell Taylor, Angie, and Linchi Rue. Thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to me. But hey, if now's not the right time, that's okay too. You can still join us on this journey by subscribing and watching the next video, where I'll show you how to find even more gemstones in the wild, some of which might be worth even more than a diamond. Thanks for liking and subscribing. Good luck, Gem Hunter.